Hello, this is Jose Luis here at Parametric Camp, and welcome to another video in our series Having Fun with AI. And in this video, what I would like to teach you is how to deploy a local installation of what's called Open WebUI so that you can have a window-based, interface-based way of asking and talking with local language models that might be living in your system. So what I want to show you here is, you see this window? This window is running the models Llama 3.2, 3.3, DeepSeek, whatever that I have installed and that are being served by my computer. And now if I type here a prompt like, hey, can you please greet our listeners on the Parametric Camp live stream, then this prediction that you just saw was generated in my machine without sending the prompt to any server, without leaking my information or making it part of any training data set, everything inside of my local machine. All right. So this is a really nice way of creating a ChatGPT-like interface, but instead of using OpenAI's services, using them locally and keeping all your data private. You will see though that I will also teach you in this video a way to make OpenAI models accessible from this same interface if you wish to do so. But the real power of this is to keep all of this information and your prompts and your data safe inside of your local machine. All right. The way I'm going to teach you how to do this is in two different ways. One is going to be deploying a Python environment where we're going to deploy Open WebUI and we're going to run it locally. And the other one is going to be using Docker containers. They're both pretty much the same. They have their pros and their cons, but there's no real difference. It depends pretty much on which kind of system are you more familiar with, okay? You're gonna see that it's very easy. It just requires a little bit of managing the dependencies and making sure that things are installed in the proper places with the proper local, with the proper environment variables, but it's actually pretty straightforward. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive into it. Let's start with the basics. So in this video, I'm going to assume that you have a working deployment of Ollama in your system so that you can actually run local models and local LLMs locally inside of your computer without any external connection. All right. The way you can figure out if this is working for you is you just go to a terminal and then you type Ollama run and then the name of some model that you already have installed, 3.2.latest, right? And then some message that you want the model to follow, right? And then if you get a response, then that should work. If you want to learn more about how to do this, I made a video on how to install Ollama. So that link to that video should be popping as a link, as a card here on the top right corner, okay? Beautiful. So as we mentioned on that video, there's two main ways to interface with Ollama or with any model that is working locally. One of them is with this command line call that I just showed you, and another one would be using some kind of server, some kind of API that Ollama establishes locally in your system. However, both of these ways require that you open a terminal and that you type stuff on your terminal, which is not very intuitive or not very gentle for non-programmers, for non-coders, whatever. And we are actually very used to the ChatGPT sort of conversational web-based interface. And WebUI, the project that I want to teach you how to install, Open WebUI is literally a solution to that. Open WebUI is a project that wishes to become a self-hosted local installation of a UI with a conversational window, with a box where you can type things, with an enter button where you can ask models to do, that connects both to models that you might be running locally. So it's particularly good and particularly well designed to connect with Ollama, for example, but at the same time, it's also good for connecting to other open APIs that are out there for the kinds that you may have to pay for, like, for example, connecting with OpenAI, connecting with Claude, connecting with all these other models that you can consume if you have API accounts with those models. All right. Open WebUI, it's an open source project. The main page is, if you Google it, is github.com, Open WebUI, Open WebUI, all right? And you will land here. It's a fantastic project. It's super nice. It's very gentle. And what I would like to do in this video is to teach you how to install WebUI in your system, how to connect it with Ollama, how to also connect it with external APIs, like for example, OpenAI, so that you can run a web-based interface to talk to your LLMs, whichever LLMs you wish to talk to. All right? So let's get busy then. The way to do this is you're going to go to their GitHub page, and don't worry, you're not going to have to download or clone the repo or whatever, right? It's much easier than that. So the way you're going to do this is you're going to go to their GitHub account, GitHub page. A link to that page should be in the description of this video. And then we're going to scroll all the way down to the description. You can see that what you see here is basically a GIF that is telling you what this is going to look like when you have it installed. We'll get to that in a second, right? And then it tells you some of the main features of the project, all right? You can read through this, it's super interesting, etc., etc. And then we're going to get to how to install this. There are two main ways to install Open WebUI. There is the Python way, if you are someone who is familiar with Python, with deploying Python modules, with installing dependencies, and maybe with managing environments. Remember that WebUI is not a lightweight project. It has a lot of stuff and it depends on a lot of different things. So it requires like a little bit of expertise knowing how to manage, for example, Anaconda environments, right? So, and the other way is using Docker. Docker is basically a container system that allows to create images with self-contained executables and dependencies as a package that then can be executed as a virtual environment living in your system. It's also a way to manage an environment, and I'm going to teach you both. Whichever one you want to use will probably depend on what kind of familiarity do you have with either the managing Python environments or with managing Docker environments. It's entirely up to you at the end of the day, and both are pretty much the same. They work equally fine. I have not seen any meaningful difference between the two. So I'm going to start with the Python one, okay? For the Python one, I'm going to assume that you have some familiarity with either Anaconda, Conda, or some way of managing environments. You don't strictly need this, so you could just install Open WebUI in your root with your Python that lives in your system globally, but that is typically not recommended because it has so many dependencies that it might drastically mess with your environment, okay? So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to follow the instructions as we typically do. So I'm going to dock here my terminal, all right? And then what I'm going to do is first I'm going to create an environment specifically for WebUI using Conda. So I'm going to go Conda create, and then I'm going to say the name of the new environment that I want to create is going to be called WebUI. And it turns out that because I've tried this in before, I already had that environment, so I'm basically going to get rid of it. Okay, so that's what's happening right now. All right, fantastic. And so I just deleted it. So Conda environment list, and my new environment is here, and I'm going to activate it. So I'm going to move inside, all right? And if I if I now say Conda list, you will see that this environment is clean. It has no dependencies, right? One thing that the developers specify is that the Python version that we should use is 3.11. That is also one good reason why we want to manage a Conda environment for this, because you might be running Python 3.12, 3. Whatever in your root system. So I'm going to install Python, and the version is going to be 3.11. All right. And then Conda is going to do its magic and download this version of Python and all its dependencies. All right. So we're going to give it a minute. Okay. And now Conda list, you're going to see that my environment does have Python 3.11 and a bunch of other dependencies that Python 3.11 requires. Okay. Beautiful. Then as per the instruction, the next step is going to be to install the Open WebUI package. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it on my terminal. I'm going to run it. And this is going fairly fast in my system because I've already done this before and it doesn't have to download anything from the internet. It's installing all these packages from a cache that I previously downloaded. You're going to see that this is kind of fast, but in your case, it will probably take more time and we'll have to do a lot of downloads, all right? So, but it's still going to take long. So I'm going to give this a minute. I'll be right back. And here we go. It took about 2 to 3 minutes, I think. And again, this was even faster on my system because I already had all the packages in the cache in Conda's cache. So cool. So now if I do Conda list, you're going to see an endless list of dependencies. Like, phew, look at this long list of stuff. Yes, WebUI is not really a lightweight project. It has so many dependencies, but anyway, it's a really good one. And now once we have that, then within the environment, this is very important, and you will need to remember it next time you open your computer and you want to activate WebUI. The only thing that you need to do is, as per the instructions, now in this environment, we have a package that is called WebUI that we can initialize with the word serve, all right? By doing that, it's going to kick off and run a bunch of things. Actually, check this out. I really like ASCII art of this kind. So it's starting, and I think we should be ready for this now. So what that means is that now I can go open a window and say localhost, and I can go to 8080, all right? And if I do that, I can access the local installation of WebUI, all right? So I'm gonna click on Get Started, and what's nice about WebUI is also that it has a way to manage accounts. It just doesn't let anyone in randomly. So because it's the first time that I'm running this, I can create a new account, blah, 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 .gmail.com, and then some kind of bogus password. I don't care because I'm going to delete this very soon, all right? And I can create my admin account. Beautiful. So great. So right now I have this web interface. I have a tiny account with my name, right? And then you can see that immediately it has picked up the 3 models that I have installed in my local Ollama framework, all right? Again, I want to point you to the video where I did this. Should be popping as a card here on the top right corner of the video, right? And then now it's just as easy as choosing the model and then saying, hey, tell me a story, right? I saw it here. I don't know what that is. I guess it picked it up. And now what you're seeing here is predictions from the Llama model that is running locally. I want to highlight, this is very important. What you're seeing here, the text that I wrote didn't go out anywhere into the wild. It didn't go into any cloud-based OpenAI. It stayed local. It lived in my machine. It remains private, and I get predictions based on that. So I can also switch to DeepSeek reasoning model, or I can open a new tiny conversation tab with DeepSeek and hey, tell me a story. And then DeepSeek is going to do the thinking thing and it's going to start giving me, it's going to take a little bit because when you start a new model, Ollama needs to load that model, put it in memory and start doing the thing. It's kind of thinking right now. You can see the thinking process, blah, blah, blah. And then at some point after the thinking process, it's going to start giving me the results. The journey beyond the mist. And you can see that it's also pretty fast. I have a desktop computer with a graphics card. So if your system, depending on if you have a gaming computer, you might be good as well. So this is great. All right, this is fantastic. We have a local deployment of Ollama and we have a web UI to interface it to make our life much, much simpler. Now, something that you may have noticed is that I only have access to local models from Ollama right now on my system. And I've said before that I can connect my web UI deployment to other external APIs like OpenAI. How do I do that? Well, it's actually pretty straightforward. So WebUI does have a way of looking into your system, seeing if you have a particular set of environment variables with known names. And if it finds those environment variables, it would load and connect to the APIs automatically. So for the purpose of this video, I deactivated my OpenAI key and I'm going to reinstantiate it. I'm going to add it again. So I'm going to do here is I'm going to go here and type environment variables. I'm going to drag this over here, environment variables, and I'm going to create a new environment variable that I'm going to call OpenAI API key. And I'm going to paste a temporary key that I downloaded right now. Okay. I'm going to pray. Okay. All right. Okay. Fantastic. Now, what we need to remember though is that we need to restart everything. So I'm going to go back to my Python server. I'm going to stop it. I'm going to close the terminal because the terminal needs to refresh. So I'm going to open a new terminal and it needs to refresh with the environment variables. I'm going to call that activate WebUI. So now I'm in the new environment, and then I'm going to do what was it? Open WebUI serve. Is that what it was? Yes, that's what it was. Beautiful. It's going to reload again. Hopefully it found the key that I just installed. Okay. And then I'm going to go to localhost 8080. And then I guess I need to, oh, what did I do? Okay, well, I guess I forgot my account. What did I do? Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, because I basically typed whatever account, I couldn't find that email that I just barfed and the password, so I had to reset the entire configuration of WebUI. So if you're actually interested in knowing how I did that, there will be a link to the live stream where I recorded this video in the description of this video. Okay, so basically I reset everything and I'm going to get started again. So JLX, and this one is also a fake email, but at least I know I'm going to remember it next time. And then what you should see is that now, all of a sudden, not only do I have the OLAMA, not only do I have the OLAMA models that I used to have before, but all of a sudden I have access to all these new OpenAI based models that I have access to because I have a developer account with an OpenAI API key. If you want to know more about how to get an API key, I have a video on that. It will be it will be popping up as a card in the corner. And let's just give it a try. So GPT-4, hey, tell me a story or something, right? And then if I do that, then you're seeing that this is generating a story with a stream API. And I want to highlight though, this is very important. Remember that we said that OLAMA and WebUI are all about keeping your data locally and generating stuff in your own computer with no leaks to the external world. When you use APIs like the OpenAI one, like I'm doing right now, you are breaking that rule. You are sending your prompt to the OpenAI servers. WebUI is doing that work for you, and then it's getting the response from the OpenAI servers back here. And therefore, in this case, when you're using these external APIs, you don't have privacy anymore. Your prompt and whatever you input here in the window is going to go to whichever server you are using in this case. All right. So pros and cons. Why would you want to use WebUI for OpenAI? I actually don't know. Maybe just because you have a place where you can switch back and forth real quick between local models and linked cloud-based models. I don't know. Okay, but it's an option. All right. So beautiful. So this was how to install WebUI using Python and managing a Conda environment. What I'm going to show you next is how to do it using Docker. For this part of the video, I'm also going to assume that you have some familiarity with Docker environments. Docker is basically a way of creating virtualized environments, as I explained previously in this video. So the way it typically looks is that you may have some kind of desktop application where you can manage with an interface, a UI, which environments do you have and which ones do you not. So I have like 3 old environments from previous projects that I used here. And you also, when you install Docker, you also have access to command line tools in your terminal. So as per the instructions, I actually don't have a video on Docker. Maybe I will have some in the future, but it's very straightforward. If you Google Docker, you install the client, and then all of these tools will be available for you in your system. So for Docker, there are different um, ways of installing it. And because it's a virtualized environment, you have to be a little more careful about the configuration. So you can see that it gives us the default Olama using Docker. If you want to do a different server, which there's no real reason to do that, or the one that I'm going to use in my case, which is Open WebUI with NVIDIA GPU support. Why is that? Because Olama may actually run virtualized in your Docker environment. So you want to have access to GPUs. Otherwise, the predictions will happen through the CPU and it will be much, much slower. Okay. So what does this mean? For the most part, you basically just have to copy this entire call. This call is basically a call that will create a new Docker environment in your system. So I'm going to copy paste this, but before we go into, remember what we did in the previous Python example, where in order to have access to OpenAI, we needed to create an environment variable in our system so that the OpenAI API key was available to the users. Where, because this is a virtualized environment, that key is not going to be available in the environment, in the Docker environment that we're going to create. So actually, here in the instructions, you can say that if you want to use OpenAI, what you basically have to do is you have to create a environment variable inside of the Docker instance. All right. So what am I going to do? I'm going to copy just the part of the environment variable. And then here in this call, I'm going to go all the way here to right after. I'm going to delete the word or your secret key. And here I'm going to copy and paste this other key, the same key that I created before, this entire thing. And what this will do is that when it creates the environment, it's already going to assign these environment variables to the environment. So I'm going to run this. And actually, interestingly, I thought it was going to use some cache information, but it looks like it's downloading everything from scratch again. So yeah, this is going to take a couple minutes. So I'll see you back in a minute. And we are done. It looks like there was a newer image and it just downloaded that. So we're good. What this means is that now if I open my desktop client, you can see that I have a new instance, a new virtual environment, the WebUI 1, that is running on port 3000. So what that means is now I can just open any browser and go to localhost and port 3000 in this case for Docker. And if I do that, then I am prompted again with, and this is some old account that I had before, I don't know why. But anyway, you can see that now I also have access to both my Olama models, I think. Actually, I don't. Why is that? I don't have access to my Olama models. I only have access to my OpenAI models. All right, this is not, something has gone wrong. I tried this before and I did have access to Olama. So maybe there is some kind of, oh, because I'm not, wait, because I am not, wait, conda activate WebUI. Maybe that is the problem. So I'm going to stop this. And I'm going to, maybe because I installed the Docker image. Oh, wait. Maybe because I installed the Docker image from, is that true? I think it might be, let me try something out. I'll be right back. All right, I am not entirely sure what happened. I tried this before recording this video and I had connections with Olama and with OpenAI and everything, but now it doesn't seem to be working. I will debug this and I will make a note or some comments in this video if I found what the problem is. But at any rate, Something that you can also do is, instead of relying on Olama living on your system and then your virtual environment in Docker being able to access Olama from your system, something that you can do is you can install the whole thing as a full package inside of Docker, so that Olama actually lives inside of your Docker environment, and that everything is bundled in the same virtual environment, which is probably a much better way of customizing this. So you can choose this other way of installing it and give it a try and see if that works for you. Okay. Right, so this was fantastic. I am very happy of what we actually put together, and now we have a web interface that runs locally on our local LLMs and that we can use to do ChatGPT-like interfacing with our local models and keep all of our data private and also streamline operations. Okay, so the only problem though is that right now only people who are in my system, in this desktop, or in a local network where they can point to my IP and my port would be able to access this web interface for these local models. What I may want to do is I may want to provide some kind of global access to anyone from the internet to be able to use this interface on my machine, so that they can maybe type chat.mypersonalwebsite.com and then they land here in this web UI served by your computer. This is what I'm going to teach you in the next video of this series, so stay tuned for the next video on how to actually open this local interface to the world using tunneling in this case. All right, so that's going to be in the next video. In the meantime, if you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing, liking this video, saying hi, joining Discord, and all those beautiful things. Thank you very much, and see you on the next video. Bye bye.